7, which are some of the best growth stocks to invest in. I should have given you guys some growth stocks that were lower in value that you guys can start up in and kind of work your way up in. But if you're buying the Magnificent Seven through ETFs, you can still get what you're trying to get. I again would lean towards the ETFs and the cash dividend stocks because those of you that are starting out in investing can build your wealth faster with the cash stocks. You can build yourself a total portfolio of cash stocks, like I told you guys last week. And then you can expand that where when you're making a large enough quantity of money to replace your standard of living, not only could you retire, but you could also take the money you don't need towards your standard of living and invest in growth stocks or other things, which you could still have a diverse portfolio that would be able to cover everything that you need, but you would also have the largest majority of your portfolio paying your standard of living. And as I said before, last week and the week before, that would be the best way to go when you're looking for retirement. For individuals that are not multimillionaires, you guys want to get you like $500,000 in stocks and then live a $70,000 a year lifestyle or something like that. You guys want to, if you're trying to live in California, you might need like $2 million worth of stocks so that you could pay for that $250,000 lifestyle in California. But even if you're living in California, you're putting away the money and then you get enough money to live, you can always move to Central America and still stay in America for a third of the price that you're spending to stay in California or New York or something like that. Any place with a very low population is going to have a very cheap cost of living in it in America. The places that are highly populated, dense populations have inflation all over the place. That's just something that you can check out for yourselves. But also, if you're making enough money to get by, more than enough money to get by, one of the things that you can actually do is honestly move to another country and take a permanent residency out there, which is also something that can be done where you're making the money that you need to make. You go out there, you get your residency, set up business, and then just stay out there. And this could be a thing for you, depending on how much money you're making versus how much money you need. And that could keep you in a really good position for those individuals. Like when we discuss some of the cheapest places to live, like Japan and um, the Philippines, where if you just completely packed up, like sold whatever you were going to sell, pack up all your stuff and just move and then set up shop out there, that can be done. And as long as you're maintaining a standard of living that is exceeding their lower and middle class lifestyle, you can knock that out. And that leads to why we were talking about the country we're going to be talking about today, Kazakhstan, because this is also one of those countries that not only is very cheap to live, it's also one of those countries that you can invest in and potentially grow your wealth in. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, uh, because we're going to be talking about the investment opportunities alongside the standard of living. Monday, I want you guys to know before we get started, make sure y'all tune in for Monday. I put it up there already, so you can hit that like button for Monday's show. Monday, we are going to be talking about how to fix your credit score because Donald Trump just put some stuff out there about adjusting the FICO score regulations and stuff to that effect. Something about Vantage score. So we're going to be talking about all of that on Monday, and that's a fantastic time because I have been delaying the ability to produce that because I wanted to put it into action first, confirm that this effort actually works, and then tell you step by step how to do it because I've done it, so that you know how you can do it, so that you can improve your credit score, so that you can go ahead and because the Vantage score is going to be based off the same information that the three major credit agencies have, and the FICO score is a different observation of the same information, which is how many people you've paid, how much money you owe, what's your debt to credit, your debt to income, um, all of that stuff. And that helps you with understanding what's good and what's not good to have on your credit score, what to try to get taken off, and what you just got to deal with, right? and then you'll be able to improve your opportunities for financing when you're trying to buy a house or a car, and get lower interest rates for your financing, even if it's lower interest rates or car insurance and stuff to that effect, mortgages and stuff, student loans and everything. And that actually overall helps the average individual, because if your credit score is bad, the interest rates are higher. And the interest rates are higher because when your credit score is bad, your trustworthiness in business and finance is lower, which makes you higher risk. And if you're higher risk, they're going to charge you higher interest rates. So I figured that at some point, while I'm telling you how to invest, how to save, how to rework your budget, how to change your decision making process on how your um, discretionary spending is done, I'm like, you know what? If we fix your credit, you might actually get a little bit more of an oomph. So I want you guys to make sure to swing back by on Monday for that. And then Tuesday of next week, we're going to be talking about uh, the size of a portfolio, what's too big, uh, as far as how many stocks to have, versus how to rebalance the stocks, whether or not you're only using your ex dividends to support the growth of your stock, or whether you're going to shave some off your stocks in order to buy the ones that are down. And we're going to be talking about all that stuff on Tuesday. So we do talk about money now. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which is coming up, we're going to be talking about self improvement, relationship improvement, stuff to that effect. So we do have advice for the guys that women can use. We also do give some advice to women, but it's given from the male's perspective. This isn't a kind of podcast that bash women. If the shoe fits, I advise you to change the way you do things instead of just wearing that shoe. Uh, the fact is that if it strikes a nerve, the information that I'm telling you, that's because some of the information that I'm telling you that might actually apply to you might be your first observation that you need to make different decisions. Um, I only give this information out to aid people into taking a first person accountability look at to the things that they do and the decisions that they make, so that they can change the things that they don't like about their life that is inside of their control. This isn't about manipulating people. This isn't about controlling people. This isn't about forcing people to do things that they don't want to do. This is about you yourself recognizing whatever it is that's going on in your life that is not going the way you would prefer. That if you make conscious choices to change certain things, that you could see a better outcome. That's what this podcast is all about. So while this and that does talk about this, that, and everything in between, we do generally focus on primarily things that directly impacts us, the average individuals, whether it impacts our money, how to make it, how to save it, how to invest it, um, taxation on it, how they're going to take it away from us. If laws are going to change, it's going to change the way we do things, that what we normally would be able to do, we now would get in trouble for. Getting in trouble for things in law typically costs us money, whether it's the cost of court, the cost of attorney fees. Um, when things change in politics, whether it's global trades or political conflicts that negatively impacts the average uh, economic industry, that negatively impacts our ability to go to work every day, or our ability to order stuff online and get what we want, or tariffs, inflation, whatever the case may be. If that's the kind of stuff that we talk about on the show, right? So while I understand the average troll is going to pop in, and they're eventually somebody's going to ask me about that damn Epstein's list, because I don't know, they feel like that's the thing to talk about. The truth of the matter is that I don't focus my attention on things that do not impact my money, that does not impact your money. I do not focus on things like, if one celebrity slapped the taste out of another celebrity's mouth at the Grammys, I'm not going to talk about that, because that's not going to impact your money, and it's not going to impact my money, right? If there's a scandal about two celebrities in the trunk of a car getting their groove on in a back alley somewhere, I'm not going to cover that story, because what two adults do in the back alley of a building is not my business, because it doesn't impact my money and it doesn't impact your money. So while this is a broad spectrum show, we do kind of focus on how to keep money in your pocket and how to allow you to build your wealth towards your retirement. And when I give you relationship advice, I give you relationship advice because typically in our, we have to remember that relationships are interactions between us and other people. It's not just a romantic relationship. Relationship is not just you and your girlfriend, you and your kids, you and your brothers and sisters, you and your wife or whatever, you and your mom and dad, your aunts and uncles, grandmas, grandpas, in-laws, you and your best friend, you and your road dogs for life, you and your situational friends, your locational friends, your bar buddies, you and the people that you pass on the street, you and your boss, you and your coworker, you and your employees. These are all relationships. You and your lawyer, you and your judge, you know what I'm saying? These are all relationships. And when you don't handle these relationships appropriately, it damages the relationship, and sometimes that damage can cost you money. Whether you're paying money to replace people, paying money to fix a mistake where you hurt somebody's feelings and now you got to buy them a gift, where you're spending extra money because you said or done something that you should not have said or done. These are the things that you can't accomplish without uh, spending money. So I try to discourage that. Then a lot of the times, like I got a buddy right now I play chess with on a regular basis, and we're gonna get into this new country, so please stay tuned. But I got a buddy that I play chess with right now, and he tells me all the time that he needs a girlfriend. He needs a girlfriend. So he's telling me this for years, and I'm not helping him find a girlfriend. And the reason why I'm not helping him find a girlfriend is because the conversation that he's having with me is his seventh or eighth drink at the bar, and one of the reasons why he can't beat me in chess is because he's too drunk to make the right chess move. So he tells me he want a girlfriend, and one of the things that I know is that any woman that might think that he's a nice guy or with a good personality when he's sober is not going to be the kind of girl that's going to say that she wants to be around a guy that is drunk every day of the week. So I tell him, bro, I can't be your Cupid until you get you some AA in you. Because in order for you to find a woman of value, you have to carry yourself as a man of value. But then he's wallowing in self pity because he's alone. He's alone because he doesn't change his decisions. And he's spending a bunch of money at the bar to, you know, drown out his sorrows because he's alone. But, if he stopped doing that vicious cycle, he would stop wasting money at the bar, sober up, have more money, and then be more attractive to a female that's looking for a guy that's not drunk all the time. Because that poses two problems. One, he would be a liability because she would have to come get him from the bar. And two, he's a financial liability because he's taking the largest majority of his available discretionary funds and wasting it at the bar. That is unappealing to the average woman, regardless of what age of a man you are. Those young girls that are looking for party animals might be okay with that because he's buying her all the drinks so that she don't got to pay for it. But an average woman that is looking for stability and responsibility is going to see that type of behavior and not be interested. We could be friends because you have a good personality, but and friendships have lack of accountability. You can be self-destructive and still be in a friendship with somebody, but you can't be in a romantic relationship with somebody who's self-destructive because their self-destruction will destroy yourself because y'all are in this together. If they sink their ship, you're in the same boat as them. So when they sink their ship, they're sinking your ship too. And that's why Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays we give you guys the advice about the relationships and other stuff so that you're not making those bad choices throughout your life that would cause you to lose out on a good relationship, that'll cause you to give up on a good relationship, that'll cause you to sabotage a good relationship, or cause you to stay in a bad relationship when you could have otherwise gotten out. So these are one of the things that I talk to you guys about on the show, and we typically do that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Special shout out to Michael; he's in here first time tonight, and I try to run that through until Sunday, where we have questions and comments about everything under the sun. We've covered physics up in here a couple times. We've covered a lot of things up in here. We've been doing it for a while. Michael said, can't be his culprit, period. Not your responsibility. Great disclaimer. Great show. Good night. Amen. That's what I'm doing. In and out. Dentist in the morning. Look, get you some rest, bro. Get your teeth brushed up. I appreciate that you dove in and was able to give me a nice little shout out. Michael usually rides away with me till about 11 no, like 1 o'clock in the morning, but he's leaving early. it's it's like 12:11 right now, Eastern Standard Time. He usually rides the waves with me until about 1:15, 1:20 in the morning, but he's got to go to a dentist in the morning. So I appreciate you coming through. But I definitely had to give you guys that disclaimer because I know that some people come to the show and they don't know what the show's about, and some people come to the show and they know because they've come to the show before. And that's why I want you guys to know, like, yeah, when you come here, I'm based on facts. I'm not based on opinion. I do have opinions, but my opinions are closely related to the facts. In my opinion, if that's a fact, this is what I think and how I feel because I based on that information, don't want to be negatively impacted by the results, right? So, would I have a personal, moral, or ethical issue with certain facts? Of course not, because I'm not involved in that situation until they close the nursing home door. I'll be poor in the morning. Of course, because you're about to go spend some money on your teeth. That's like $600 sometimes, depending on what you're trying to do. Now, let's go ahead and dive into today's show. Because usually I give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer, anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes to let you guys know what's going on so that y'all can get settled in. Anybody who's trying to grab a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever, before we get in here and get started. Um, we're going to go ahead and get started with Kazakhstan because in the heart of Central Asia, there is this country that presents one of the most staggering paradoxes on the planet. And I wanted to talk about it today because it's a nation spiraling across a territory the size of West Europe, making it the ninth largest country in the world. Yet for many, it remains a total mystery because I didn't even know about it until I did research on it a couple of days ago. This is a place where futuristic skylines pierce the clouds in one city, while just a short trip away, ancient traditions play out against a backdrop of breathtaking, untouchable wilderness. It's a land of beautiful, stark contrast, but the biggest contrast isn't something you can see in its landscapes, it's in the economy. On one hand, this is a country where you can live and live pretty well on a shoestring budget where we're talking about a daily cost of living that can be so low that $15 to $20 a day would probably ride that wave. It's a place where a monthly budget of $2,000 doesn't just get you by. It lets you live a life of comfort that's almost unimaginable in most Western capitals. So imagine renting a modern apartment, feasting on incredible food, and exploring stunning natural wonders, all on a budget that would barely cover a week's groceries in New York or London. A cup of coffee at a stylish cafe that might set you back $1 or two. A ride on a gleaming, efficient subway system costs literally pennies. It's a magnet for the budget conscious traveler, a digital nomad, somebody who makes money on the computer, and the adventurer looking for something new. That's what this place is for. But while you're sipping on that $2 coffee, something else is happening, mostly out of sight. The world's wealthiest people, giant corporations, and shrewd investors are quietly kicking off a multi-billion-dollar gold rush right under your feet. And they aren't here for the cheap lattes. They're here for what lies beneath the vast, steep, immense atmosphere. Almost unbelievably large reserves of gold, uranium, and oil, and a whole treasure trove of critical minerals that are essential for our tech driven future. And this isn't just a trickle of money, it's a flood. In 2022, the first 10 months in Kazakhstan, uh, the first 10 months of 2024 alone, foreign direct investments hit over $16 billion. The government has laid out a bold plan to attract a staggering $150 billion in foreign investments by 2029. And this great paradox is Kazakhstan. I got to tell you, look, halfway down the page, and that's the first time we talk about the country. What? A nation where you can live like royalty on a budget while global powers and the ultra rich are making one of the biggest, quietest investment plays of the 21st century. The real question is why? What do they know that the rest of us are just starting to catch on to? Before we dive into the high stakes world of geopolitics and billion-dollar resource deals, you need to understand the first half of this paradox. What does life actually look like on a budget in the world's ninth largest country? The numbers are frankly mind blowing. Global casts have given the cost of living indexes consistently ranking Kazakhstan as one of the most affordable countries on earth. That's crazy because I thought Japan was the most affordable one on earth. But overall, consumer prices are about 60% lower than in New York. Look, there goes the ticker. It popped up. We're going to get rid of it real quick. And rents on average is a staggering 75% lower than in the United States. Now, I don't know about you, but if the rent in America between two and $3,000, $4,000, depending on which side of the country that you're living in, and 25% of that is what you're paying in Kazakhstan between 250 and $1,000 a month. Ah, some good numbers. Compared to other major cities, the difference is stark. Living in Almaty, the country's vibrant cultural hub, is 51% cheaper than in Rome and 58% cheaper than in mid-sized United Kingdom city like Stoke-on-Trent. For the true backpacker, a daily spend of just $9 to $22 is totally possible, covering the basics of a hostel, food, and transportation. And hostels is like a hotel, almost like a bed and breakfast kind of thing. So let's break that down. A bed in a clean, modern hostel in a major city can cost as little as $10 a night. For those wanting more privacy, renting an apartment is also shockingly cheap. Then there's food. The culinary scene is a rich mix of nomadic traditions and Silk Road flavors. A simple hearty meal at a local spot can cost between $5 and $7. Street food delicacies like samasa, a savory pastry stuffed with meat and onions, or a juicy swa- uh, shawarma can be had for just a couple of dollars. And these are some pretty stretched out, um, names there. But I'm from America. They might be thinking that some of the places we got, like Boston, might sound weird. But getting around is just as easy on the wallet because major cities like Almaty have efficient and modern public transportation where a single ride on a metro costs a fixed tiny sum. Taxis are also inexpensive for getting around town. So what happens when you go from backpacker's budget to something more comfortable, like say $2,000 a month? In Western countries, that amount would be eaten up by rent alone. Shit, that amount might be eaten up by your car note and your car insurance, depending on who's driving that G Wagon. But in Kazakhstan, it puts you in a different league. With $2,000 a month, you could comfortably rent a modern multi-room apartment in a great central location. You could eat out regularly at mid-range and even high-end restaurants. This budget would easily allow for frequent travel from skiing in the Tian Shan Mountains to exploring the otherworldly landscapes of the Shiren Canyons. It covers all your utilities, high speed internet, and leaves plenty of cash for leisure, culture, and savings. To put it in perspective, the average monthly salary in Kazakhstan is around $825 to $844 per month. A $2,000 monthly budget provides a standard of living that many locals aspire to, offering a level of comfort and freedom that's becoming harder and harder to find in the developed world. So, this is what's pulling in the growing number of digital nomads, expats, and adventurers. But this picture of affordability is only one side of the coin. To understand the other side, the one that's attracting billions, we have to look at how modern Kazakhstan was born. To get a grip on Kazakhstan's current economic path, you have to have a rewind back to 1991. When the Soviet Union fell apart, Kazakhstan found itself in a tough spot. It was a new nation inheriting a massive territory loaded with natural resources, but stuck with an inefficient, central planned Soviet economy. The first few years were rough, marked by hyperinflation, economic collapse, and social upheaval. The country's leaders made a game changing decision, embracing the free market, but do it their own way. So the first decade was about survival. They privatized state owned companies and opened the doors to the world out of sheer necessity. The first wave of foreign investors came from Western energy companies who saw the massive potential in the country's oil and gas fields. Giants like Chevron and ExxonMobil signed historic deals. Before we go any further, I want you guys to listen to what I just said. Because here on this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we talk about how to make money for you. I said, what companies? I said Chevron and ExxonMobil. So, for those of you that are following along, while I wasn't supposed to be talking about stocks today intentionally, Chevron and ExxonMobil, I have mentioned on this show multiple times as two investment opportunities in the gas and oil industry. And you need to go and grab those stocks if you're looking for growth based stocks. Make sure you guys like and subscribe as we continue. A special shout out to Dylan, bro. Have you met Borat yet? No. Who is Borat? Where is he? Well, who is he? Who is here? Here's a good observation because I love this. Remember when I told you guys at the beginning of the show that I put more attention to the things that impact my money and less attention to the things that don't. Who is Borat? I don't know him. Why do I not know him? Because he doesn't make me money. He is the number one TV producer. Really? Didn't know that. Probably unlikely that I'd ever meet him in my life, but good for him. Now, I would assume that if he is the number one TV producer, I would assume that he would be at one of his studios producing something, unless he's made enough money to be like Steve Jobs and Donald Trump to just not work at all, right? Because money makes money for him. He put Kazakhstan on the map. Did he now? Well, it looks like I'm putting him back on the map a second time. So Borat has been to Kazakhstan, and Borat put Kazakhstan on the map. So special shout out to Borat because I didn't know who Borat was until you told me. uh, he even has a clock radio. Okay, I don't have a clock radio. Um, do you have one of those rotary, like turn it and then let it come back and then turn it, and you know, from back in the day? Because that would be very valuable. Michael would be able to sell that in an estate sale and get you some money for it. Again, it's about what puts money in our pocket, not billionaires that already got money in theirs. But I appreciate you telling us about it. Back in the day, old school. Right, right. I understand that. I'm familiar. I'm the last of a dying breed. 8-track tape players, reel to reel players, you know, black and white TV, box fans before air conditioning was created, antennas before everything was digital, when everything was back analog with the static in a TV. Yeah, old school. Now, giants like Chevron and ExxonMobil signed historic deals, laying the foundation for what would become the engine of the uh, Kazakh economy. This flood of cash from the energy sector was a lifeline. It funded a state, stabilized the new currency, the tenji, and kicked off a slow process of building a new national identity. So, one of the most symbolic moves of this era was shifting the capital from the cozy southern city of Almaty to a remote, wide-swept town on the northern steppe, which was renamed Ashtana. So, the government poured billions of oil dollars into building a futuristic capital from scratch, a gleaming symbol of a nation's ambition. It was a clear statement to the world that Kazakhstan was looking forward. As oil money started to flow more steadily in the early 2000s, the government began to think more strategically. They set up the National Fund of the Republic of Kazakhstan, which is an oil fund. The same thing that Donald Trump's doing right now with the sovereign wealth fund is going to be a cryptocurrency fund. Yeah, it's going to be stocks and stuff like that, but primarily he's going to slide into cryptocurrency. They haven't done it yet. They just talked about it. He did the executive order earlier this year. Now, the idea was to stabilize the budget against shaky commodities and prices to fund critical projects for future generations. This foresight helped Kazakhstan handle economic storms like the 2008 financial crisis much better than many of its resource rich peers like us, because we did not do well with the 2008 financial crisis. In 2008, the financial crisis gave us the black and silver recession flag turned upside down because folks were struggling that bad. If y'all know what that generation was like. But the country's leaders also saw the danger of the resource course, where having a lot of natural resources can actually lead to slower growth and corruption. Relying so heavily on oil and gas made the economy vulnerable. This realization sparked a new national mission: economic diversification. So, over the last decade, Kazakhstan has been on a relentless drive to move beyond just selling raw materials. They launched ambitious strategies aimed at building a knowledge based economy driven by a strong private sector. They knew that to attract the kind of investment that builds factories and creates high skilled jobs, they had to do more than just point at a map of their resources. They had to roll out the red carpet for foreign capital. This set the stage for the modern investment boom we're seeing today is a deliberate, aggressive campaign to make Kazakhstan the undisputed investment hub of Central Asia. Today's investment story in Kazakhstan isn't about passive discovery, it's about active strategic courtship. The government has built a sophisticated system designed to attract, protect, and incentivize foreign capital on a massive scale. At the heart of it, all of the nation's incredible natural resources. Kazakhstan is a geological treasure chest. Okay, it's the world's leading producer of uranium. I told you guys that is something that you got to get into because uranium is on high demand for the AI and um, solar battery stuff. But uranium has massive reserves in their country. In addition to that, they also have massive reserves of chromite, lead, and zinc. Also, y'all need to just take a look at my precious metals show that I gave y'all coverage of one way back when. Because if y'all take a look at the precious metals show, y'all will be able to see, oh dip, all of these precious metals that I talked to you guys about in other countries, because I didn't know about Kazakhstan at the time. But if you found countries like Kazakhstan that has these precious metals, you can either invest in the mining of these precious metals or you can invest in the ETFs of the companies that are mining these precious metals and grow your portfolio without actually having to hold a dump truck full of zinc in your backyard. About Kazakhstan, it's also a major producer of the gold, which everybody wants, copper and silver, where silver is undervalued and copper is in high demand. But the real buzz for today's investors is in the minerals of the future, things like the lithium, tantalum, and rare earth elements, which are the building blocks for batteries, smartphones, and green technology, which is the same stuff we're trying to get out of Ukraine. For decades, the focus was oil and gas, with major projects uh, attracting tens of billions of global energy giants. While that sector is still a cornerstone, attracting 4.6 billion in 2024 alone, the new strategy is to shift from exporting crude to developing high value downstream industries like petrochemicals to produce plastic and polymers. Sidestepping again, they're talking about petrochemicals for plastic and polymers. Donald Trump passed an executive order earlier this year promoting plastic. All plastic companies in the United States worth investing in because as we get into 2026, plastics are a thing. Kazakhstan's promoting it too. Now you got two different places you can invest in to get it. To turbocharge this diversification, Kazakhstan creates special economic zones or SEZs. And there are now 14 of these SEZs across the country, where each is acting as a pocket of hyper competitiveness. These aren't just industrial parks, they are legally distinct areas offering a package of irresistible perks. Companies in a special economic zone can get a 100% break on corporate income tax, land tax, and property tax. They are exempt from customs duties and can hire foreign labor more easily. These zones are strategically targeted. The Korgos Eastern Gate, KEG, that sounds like one of those guns that they use to shoot up a school. But the Korgo's Eastern Gate, SEZ, on the Chinese border is a key logistical hub, while others focus on m- metallurgy, manufacturing, and chemicals. These guys are working on stuff all over the place. But perhaps the most ambitious piece of the puzzle is the Astana International Financial Center, or AIFC. Launched back in 2018, the AIFC is a unique jurisdiction in the region that operates under a legal system based on English common law, which makes it easier for us. And this is a framework that international investors know and trust. And all its proceedings are in English, which makes it easier for us, with its own independent court to handle disputes. The AIFC also has its own favorable tax regime and stock exchange, and it's become a hub for fintech and green finance. With over 4,000 companies from 80 countries already registered, it's a clear signal that Kazakhstan is not just open for business, but is building a world class stable environment for it. This mix of immense resource wealth, which is a strategic push into new industries, and a highly attractive framework like the special economic zones and the AIFCs is what's fueling the investment boom. So major firms from the Netherlands, United States, China, and Russia are pouring in capital. From Carlsberg opening a new production site to PepsiCo, invest in PepsiCo. I'm going to give you guys some stuff. They said, while y'all investing in PepsiCo, y'all need to be investing in Coca Cola at the same time, investing in local agriculture, and Kia building a car manufacturing plant. I can't really tell you go invest in Kia. Kia is pretty good, but Kia is not the best car dealership in the market. But PepsiCo and Coca-Cola have been around long before Warren Buffett. And if Buffett can become a billionaire on it, you can become a millionaire on it. So, you can ride that wave. The diversification is also becoming real as a result. But no investment story this big comes without risks. For all the glossy plans, there are serious challenges lurking just beneath the surface. So, anyone looking to invest in Kazakhstan would be making a huge mistake to ignore the risks and only aim for the gains. The country's path to prosperity isn't a straight line, it's a high wire act, tightrope walking. The first major challenge is governance and corruption. So while Kazakhstan has worked to improve its business climate, bureaucracy and a lack of transparency are still issues. The resource curse often brings the risk of powerful elites trying to capture wealth for personal gain, which puts too much money in one person's pocket, taking money out of everybody else's pocket when we're all supposed to be working together to make money as a group. The government is publicly committed to reforms, but changing institutions is a slow process. The second risk is geopolitical. Kazakhstan lives in a very complex neighborhood because it shares the world's largest continuous land border with Russia, who is currently not United States' favorite person, and its historical partner. So to the east is China, an economic giant, and its largest trade partner. So to the south are the less stable nations of Central Asia, while the US and the EU are always in the mix. Kazakhstan has skillfully handled this with a multi vector foreign policy, not choosing sides, but building practical relationships with all major powers. It maintains a strong security ties with Russia, is a key part of China's trade route to Europe, and actively courts investments from the West as a crucial counterbalance. This balancing act is a masterclass in diplomacy, but it's gotten tougher. The war in Ukraine has put this policy under immense pressure because Kazakhstan has had to walk a fine line, all while 80% of its oil exports still transit through Russia's pipelines, which we just finished talking about a few days ago, got America a little bit angry. This is a major economic vulnerability. As a result, Kazakhstan is working hard with Western and Chinese partners to develop a middle corridor, which will be an alternative trade route to bypass Russia by crossing the Caspian Sea and move critical for its long term independence. Because as long as it's running through Russia, it has to lean on Russia for its oil. A third risk is continued reliance on commodities. Diversification is the national mantra, but the oil and gas sector is still making up a huge part of the GDP and exports. So this leaves the country vulnerable to wild swings in global energy prices. The push to build up manufacturing, agriculture, and tech is a race against time and market volatility. Finally, as the landlocked country exists here, logistics are a constant challenge. Getting its own goods to global seas lines a complex, expensive effort. Developing efficient rail lines and dry ports like cargoes is part of a massive effort to overcome the limits of its geography because they're like in the middle of everybody. These risks are real, and the future for investors will depend entirely on how the government navigates these formidable challenges. So, we return to our paradox, a nation of shocking affordable living floating on a sea of high stakes wealth. We've seen the $15 a day reality, a world away from the $1 billion contracts signed in Astania's glass towers. We've traced the history from post Soviet chaos to a calculated campaign for global investments. And we've looked at the uh, machinery of the campaign. We've observed the SEZs and the AIFCs and the huge risks that comes with them. What does the future hold for Kazakhstan? Is Kazakhstan being in the middle of a monumental bet worth betting on? Because it's wagering that it can use its finite underground treasures to build a sustainable, diversified, and modern economy. It's a race to transform itself before the window of opportunity closes. The path forward hinges on a few key questions. First, can the diversification strategy really work? It works for us, but their diversification strategy is a whole lot larger. Will the new factories and tech hubs become globally competitive, or will they always be secondary to the energy sector? Success will mean creating a new generation of Kazakh engineers and entrepreneurs. Second, how will the benefits of this boom be shared? The ultimate test for any nation is the well being of its people. The great challenge is ensuring that the wealth from mines and oil fields translates into better schools, hospitals, and opportunities for all its citizens, not just a small elite. If prosperity stays concentrated in the big cities while rural areas lag, it could create social instability down the road. Anyone who's banking on that can start working on the rural areas and potentially take advantage of an up and coming uh, special economic zone for developing or redeveloping rural structures. Third, can the delicate geopolitical balancing act hold up in increasingly polarized world? Kazakhstan's multi-vector foreign policy has been a master stroke, allowing it to stay independent while nestled between giants. But as rivalries between the US, China, and Russia heat up, the pressure to choose sides will only grow. Its ability to remain a bridge rather than a battleground will be its greatest test. The story of Kazakhstan in the 21st century is one of the incredible, ambitious stories I have ever heard. The rich are investing not just because of the gold and oil in the ground, but because they see a country with a clear long term plan to turn the raw wealth into something more lasting. A modern, stable, and pivotal economy at the crossroads of the world. Whether its grand gambit pays off remains to be seen. The risks are as vast as the steep itself. But for those paying attention, Kazakhstan offers a fascinating look into the future of economic development. The secret, it seems, is finally getting out, especially since I'm snitching. This is a nation in the middle of a profound transformation. What do you think is the biggest challenge Kazakhstan faces in its mission to diversify? The geopolitical pressure or the international risk of the resource course? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The story of Kazakhstan is powerful, and it's a powerful reminder that the world map is never static. This is why we cover different countries around the world. A nation once seen as being on the uh, cornerstone of failure can, with strategy and ambition, move to the very center of the global conversation. The contrast between the simple, affordable life available to an average person and the colossal sums being invested by the world's financial elites isn't a contradiction, it's a snapshot of a country in motion. It's the friction between what Pakistan is and what it is determined to be. The journey from a 15 a day nation to a $150 billion investment destination is a story of a country using its ancient geological wealth to build a 21st century future. And it's bold plan, and the world is starting to take notice of such bold plan. So for the savvy investor, the curious traveler, or the student of geopolitics, Kazakhstan is no longer a country you can afford to ignore. It's quite a rise that might just be one of the most important economic shifts of the next decade. And that's something that not too many people notice or ever took a gander into. Now, what do you guys think about Kazakhstan? Since Dylan told us about Borat and how Borat put Kazakhstan on the map. I did not know Kazakhstan or Borat, so he didn't do as good of a job as we had hoped. However, Kazakhstan is booming, and I'm interested to know what you guys think. Uh, would you guys be considering putting investments into Kazakhstan? Would you guys, if it has fintech opportunities, are you going to be investing in Kazakhstan from America or whatever country that you rely on? Special shout out to Bangladesh and India for showing us extreme quantities of love this week, this month, matter of fact, because they've been coming through pretty heavy over the past month. more so than America. Then I also want to know, what are you guys intents for the rest of your year? I did ask y'all a while back to map out your 5 year, 10 year, 15, 20 year plan. And I'm interested to see where people see themselves in 5 to 10 years. I'm interested to see how far you have gone on your 20-year plan. If you haven't started one yet, what's your first step? If you have, how far have you gotten so far? Um, it doesn't matter how old you are when you start your 20-year plan. What matters is how much effort you put into it. The goal is to find a way to have the capability to retire at some point where you are no longer required to live off of your own physical efforts. Hopefully, on this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we will provide you with enough information if you haven't thought about what your 10-year, 20-year plan is, that you could finally start thinking about it. Because even if you start this year, even if you've got to get yourself situated so that you can start next year, if you start your 20-year plan next year, you would still be capable of reaching a satisfactory level by, we're at 2025, it'd be 2045. How old are you now? 40, 50 years old, 30 years old? You'd be 60, 70 years old. You can still find a way to reach the age where, instead of relying solely on Social Security disability, that you would actually have a satisfactory um, retirement amount that you could clearly live on without a problem. And that's one of the things that we want to push towards. So I want to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, I do this for you. There's about 72% male podcasts from the male perspective. And I give you guys all of this information to help you guys become higher value men. But this is not exclusive to just the men. Ladies, y'all can take this information and make yourselves higher value women as well. Because if you know how to get out there and grind, and you know how to get out there and make that money, you know how to take that money and invest it on something other than your hair and your nails. You can build your own generational wealth, because we have that pro women's. We don't need men. We can do it all by ourselves. And yes, you can. More than likely better than we can, because we're clearly distracted by personal desires. Fact is, the information is out there. You got to know where to look, and you got to know where to get it. Here on this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, I go look for it and then I bring it to you. What are you going to do with all of the information that comes off of this channel? Are you going to take it and invest in something? Are you going to build your retirement? Are you going to build a inheritance for your kids? Are you going to set something up for your kids' colleges? Are you going to build something for your grandkids? What are you going to just enjoy the night and then go back to wasting money tomorrow? What do you plan on doing with your life? Because I know a lot of people who chase religion, they are doing everything that they can to build the best afterlife, not knowing if afterlife is actually going to be there for them. But how many of y'all are building your next year? How many of y'all are building your 5 years from now? How many of y'all are building your last day on the job? And after that last day on the job, what is your life going to be like? It should be boring because all your bills are paid and you got nothing to do. It could be eventful because all of your bills are paid and you've got extra money to travel the world and enjoy life. But it should never be stressful because you don't have enough money to make ends meet and you're not physically capable to go out there and get that money. Hopefully, I can put a stop to the latter. So, if you've got time every night of the week, I want you guys to make sure that you like and subscribe. I want you guys to be able to hit those notification buttons. I want you guys to be able to come back to the show every day as often as possible. Even if you don't have the ability to come during the show, come back after the show is over when you got time and listen to what comes out of this podcast, because something will benefit you. If you guys are watching from Twitch and Twitter, this is a highly interactive podcast. You guys can definitely chime in as well. You guys can hit the follow buttons on Twitter, X, and Twitch, and you guys can benefit from this information as well. You guys can come and like the YouTube channel, and then when a notification button tells you that the show went live, you can come back and watch us on Twitter or Twitch. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you get the information, because we don't know what questions to ask if we don't know where to start. When I give you something that sparks your interest, that's where you start. That's where you start asking questions. You can ask them to me, you can ask them to Google, Siri, Alexa, Cortana, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever you want to do. But you know where to start because I gave you something to start with. And that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to start looking for a better way. There's that age-old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. But truth be told is that you could have all the willpower in the world, and if you can't think of a way out, you will choose a negative outcome to finish this in the most extreme way possible than to find the best possible outcome for you. Because in the moment of high stress, in the moment of high duress, you had no other option that you could think of. Now, everybody else outside of your situation can look at what you went through and hypothesize so many other different decisions you could have made that you didn't think of in that moment. But in that moment, they can't guarantee that they would not have made the same decision that you made. Here on this and that, while I know some people that watch this channel go through the struggle, I give you guys as much information as I can to help you guys get through the struggle, get out of the struggle, and stop living a life of struggle. If I don't know the answer, I'll go find it out. But if you did not know that this was a thing before you came to the show, you got a lot of videos that you missed, because I am following up on every story that I've covered over the past 2 years. And all of those long-winded, boring podcasts that I gave you, the detailed core information on how to get started, are all starting to come together this year, this fall, as we're telling you what we can do and what we should do. And go back and watch that other video, because the other one will tell you about what you didn't get out of this one, which is the core information about the precious minerals, because we did a whole podcast about that, and the core information about the precious metal, because we did a whole podcast about that. Then when you also finish looking at those, go back and take a look at international bank accounts, international trusts, non-residential trusts, countries that don't charge you taxes. I'm telling you, we're covering so much stuff. Dual passports. I'm telling you, we're covering so much stuff. And if you stick with us, you will get the knowledge. You'll get more knowledge from me than you'll get from a 4-year institution. I can tell you that. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will be seeing you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate